December 1944, the Battle of the Bulge, Hitler's last desperate gamble to turn the tide of World War II. And in the frozen forests of Belgium, one American general sent a message so bold, so audacious, that it struck fear into the heart of the Nazi regime. His name was George S. Patton, and what he said next would become the stuff of legend. Imagine this. You're Adolf Hitler, sitting in your bunker, convinced that your surprise offensive through the Ardennes will split the Allied forces in half. You've thrown everything you have at this attack. Over 200,000 men, hundreds of tanks. The weather is on your side with fog and snow grounding Allied aircraft. And for a moment, it looks like it might actually work. American forces are surrounded, cut off, and desperately holding on in the town of Bastogne. But then you hear about Patton, and suddenly your confidence begins to crack. Here's what made Hitler and the German High Command truly terrified. When the Battle of the Bulge began on December 16th, the German offensive caught the Allies completely off guard. American forces were being pushed back, casualties were mounting, and panic was starting to set in at headquarters. General Eisenhower called an emergency meeting at Verdun on December 19th. Every commander in the room was talking about defense, about holding the line, about regrouping. But when Eisenhower asked how soon they could launch a counterattack, the room went silent. Except for one man. Patton stood up and said something that seemed impossible. He claimed he could disengage 3 full divisions from his current operations, pivot them 90 degrees north, march them over 100 miles through winter conditions, and attack the German flank within 48 to 72 hours. Think about it like this. Imagine you're playing chess, and your opponent just launched a surprise attack that has you on the defensive. Everyone expects you to protect your king and scramble to survive. But instead, within 2 days, you completely reorganize your pieces, march them across the board through a blizzard, and launch a devastating counterattack on your opponent's exposed side. That's exactly what Patton promised. And here's the key. He didn't just promise it, he actually did it. The other generals in the room thought he was crazy. They thought it was logistically impossible. Moving 90,000 men with their tanks, artillery, and supplies over icy roads in the dead of winter while maintaining combat effectiveness seemed like pure fantasy. But Patton had already been planning for this. He was always thinking 3 moves ahead. He had secretly ordered his staff to prepare contingency plans for exactly this scenario, days before Eisenhower even called the meeting. When German intelligence intercepted communications about Patton's rapid movement north, the reports that reached Hitler's headquarters were met with disbelief. Nazi commanders thought it was a trick, some kind of Allied deception, because what Patton was attempting simply shouldn't have been possible with the technology and logistics of 1944. But when German reconnaissance confirmed that Patton's Third Army was indeed racing north and would hit their southern flank within days, the psychological impact was devastating. Here's why this terrified Hitler to his core. Patton wasn't just another Allied general. The Germans had been studying him since North Africa. They knew his reputation. They called him Der Bluthund, which means the bloodhound, because once he got on your trail, he never let go. German commanders had a healthy respect, bordering on fear of Patton's aggressive tactics and lightning-fast movements. Hitler himself had specifically referenced Patton in strategy meetings as the Allied commander he was most concerned about. And now, just when the Führer thought he had the Allies on the ropes, here comes Patton doing the impossible, arriving where he shouldn't be able to arrive, attacking when he should be defending. On December 22nd, Patton's forces smashed into the German southern flank near the surrounded town of Bastogne. The speed and ferocity of the attack caught the Germans completely off balance. They had committed everything to pushing west, and now, suddenly, they had a major American army tearing into their supply lines and rear positions. But here's the message that truly sent chills through the Nazi command. Patton didn't just attack. He sent word through every channel, every prisoner interrogation, every intercepted communication that he was coming, that nothing would stop him, and that he would personally drive all the way to Berlin if given the chance. One of the most famous moments came when the surrounded American forces in Bastogne were ordered to surrender by the Germans. The American commander, General McAuliffe, sent back a one-word reply: nuts. And when the Germans asked for clarification, the American officer explained it meant, go to hell, and then added that Patton was on his way. Those 4 words, Patton is on his way, became a rallying cry that spread through American lines and a source of dread for German forces. Think about the psychology of this. You're a German soldier who's been advancing for days. You're exhausted, running low on supplies, and suddenly you hear that Patton, the most aggressive and unpredictable Allied general, has somehow teleported his entire army to your flank and is attacking right now. That's not just a military threat. That's a psychological weapon. It breaks the spirit of your troops. It makes your commanders second-guess every decision. And it makes your supreme leader, Adolf Hitler, realize that maybe this war isn't going according to plan after all. Within days of Patton's arrival, the German offensive stalled. By early January, it had completely collapsed. The Battle of the Bulge, which was supposed to be Germany's great comeback, instead became the beginning of the end. Hitler had gambled everything on this offensive. He had pulled units from other fronts, used up precious fuel reserves, and committed his best remaining forces. When it failed, thanks in large part to Patton's impossible maneuver, the Nazi leadership knew that defeat was now inevitable. The Allies would be in Germany within months, and there was nothing left to stop them. Here's what we can learn from this. Patton understood that warfare isn't just about firepower and numbers. It's about speed, surprise, and the willingness to do what your enemy thinks is impossible. While others were defensive and reactive, Patton was offensive and proactive. He didn't wait for the perfect conditions. He created opportunities through sheer force of will and meticulous preparation. His message to Hitler wasn't sent through diplomatic channels or radio broadcasts. It was sent through action, through doing what couldn't be done, through showing up where he wasn't supposed to be able to show up, and through never, ever giving the enemy a moment to breathe or recover. The terrifying thing for Hitler wasn't just that Patton succeeded in this one impossible maneuver. It was what that success represented. It showed that the Allies had generals who could outthink, outmaneuver, and outfight the best the Germans could offer. It demonstrated that American industrial might could support these rapid movements with the supplies and equipment needed. And most importantly, it proved that the momentum had completely shifted. The Germans were no longer on the offensive. They were fighting for survival, and there was a relentless, unstoppable force named Patton coming for them. So the next time you face an impossible challenge, remember Patton at the Battle of the Bulge. Sometimes the best defense is an overwhelming offense. Sometimes the key to victory is doing what everyone else thinks can't be done. And sometimes the most powerful message you can send doesn't require words at all. Just decisive action that speaks louder than any threat ever could. If this story inspired you, hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me which historical military leader you want to hear about next. And subscribe, because we're diving deep into the moments that changed history. I'll see you in the next one.